In today's lesson, we will examine instructional design models for online learning. Within this lesson, participants will be able to discuss the history of instructional design models, examine specific models for designing online learning courses, and compare the strengths and weaknesses of specific models for online learning courses. To begin with a brief history of instructional design models, early instructional design models were often based on behaviorism. Behaviorists believed that learning is a change in observable behavior caused by external stimuli in the environment. However, some educators claim that not all learning is observable and there is more to learning than a change in behavior. As a result, there has been a shift away from behaviorism to cognitive and constructivist learning theories. Cognitive psychology claims that learning includes the use of memory, motivation, thinking, and reflection. Cognitive theorists view learning as an internal process. Constructivism claims that learners interpret the information according to their personal reality and that they learn by observation, processing, and interpretation. Constructivists believe learners learn best when they can contextualize what they learn for immediate application and personal meaning. A recently proposed theory under discussion is connectivism. Connectivists believe learning is not under the control of the learner due to the information explosion in the current age. Learning is determined by others and it is continually changing. Connectivists also believe that some knowledge will reside in technology while some knowledge will reside in humans. Moving on to the three fundamental questions addressed by all instructional design models. Various models address these three fundamental questions in various stages of design. The first question, where are we going, is the analysis phase, where we analyze the context, the task, and the learners. At the end of this phase, we need to have the learning goals. The second question, how are we going to get there, addresses the instructional strategy phase. At the end of this phase, we need to have the learning objectives, assessments, instructional strategies, and the delivery medium. This phase is the core of the design. The third question, how do we know we got there, is the evaluation phase. At the end of this phase, we must make some decisions concerning revisions and improvement of the course materials. We will now examine 4 instructional design models for online learning. The first is the ADDIE model. Developed in the 1970s, ADDIE is still the most commonly used model for instructional design. ADDIE is an acronym for the 5 stages of a development process: analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. The ADDIE model relies on each stage being done in the given order, but with a focus on reflection and iteration. We will now take a look at the various stages involved in this model. The first phase is the analysis phase. Before you begin developing any content, you should analyze the current situation. Start with a series of questions to understand the current situation and to also understand your goal. Some of the main questions addressed in this phase are: what is the typical background of the students? What do the students need to accomplish? What are the desired learning outcomes? What instructional goals does the project focus on? What is the most conducive learning environment? And what limiting factors exist? The second phase is the design phase. This stage determines goals, tools to be used, various tests, subject matter analysis, planning, and resources. In this phase, the focus is on the learning objectives, content, subject matter analysis, lesson planning, assessment instruments, and the media selection. Some of the major questions addressed are: what is the main idea of the project? What media will be used? What are the available resources? What level and types of activity will be used? How will you implement the parts of the project? And how much time is to be assigned to each task? The development phase starts the production and testing of the methodology. In this stage, designers make use of the data collected from the two previous phases. The development stage is all about putting it into action. It aims to address the following questions. Is the time frame being adhered to in relation to what has been accomplished in terms of the material? Are the members working effectively as a team? Are participants contributing as per their optimal capacity? And are the materials produced up to task on what they were intended for? The implementation phase. Once you have completed your course and you are satisfied that it is fully tested, it's time to share it with the learner. The decisions made in the design phase will influence how this is actually carried out. The following are examples of what can be determined. What will your response be if, after presenting activities to the students, things do not go as planned? Will you go for implementation on a small scale or a large scale? When the student group gets the material, can they work independently or is constant guidance required? The last phase is the evaluation phase. Getting feedback on every aspect of the course is really important so that you can improve and revise the content. Here's what to focus on. What factors will the effectiveness of the project be determined? When will the data related to the project's overall effectiveness be collected and how? Determine a system for analyzing participant feedback. And how will you revise certain aspects of the project before its full implementation? The second instructional design model we will examine is the Dick and Carey model, also known as the Systems Approach Model, by Walter Dick and Lou and James Carey. The first version of the model was published in 1968. However, it has been modified over the years. The image you see on the right of your screen represents the fourth edition of the model. These modifications were the result of the emergence of several important concepts and procedures. These influences include performance technology, context analysis, multi-level evaluation models, and total quality management. All 9 steps are connected, and some influence each other directly, while others influence each other indirectly. The first step is to figure out the instructional goals. This means that you are able to, or will be able to, identify what it is the student needs to learn. Instructional analysis is the second step. This means you are determining the skills that your students will need to learn and what you plan to teach them. Next, you have to assess which skills the students have out of those you previously determined are needed for this lesson. Fourth, write performance objectives based on the instructional analysis. The fifth thing you must do is create a test consistent with the performance objectives that will reflect what you're hoping to teach the students. Sixth, you begin to outline your lesson plan. This means that you will develop instructional strategy, including pre-instructional activities, instruction, practice and feedback, testing, and follow-up activities. Next, develop and select instructional materials, typically including a learner's manual, instructor guides, multimedia, and assessments. Eighth, design and conduct a formative assessment to determine how to improve instruction. Last, revise instruction based on the data collected in Step 8. The third model we will discuss is the SAM model. It is suggested as an alternative instructional design model for ADDIE. SAM is an acronym for Successive Approximation Model. The SAM model is agile and iterative. Agile means multiple steps are happening at the same time. Iterative means each development stage in SAM is cycled, and each cycle should be closer to the ideal than the last one. The iteration makes room for evaluation and changes to the development as needed. There are 3 phases of SAM. The preparation phase. SAM starts with the preparation phase, but not the same preparation as an ADDIE. The preparation and information gathering in SAM is quick. Savvy Start means the development focus is to ensure alignment between the learner's performance needs and the learning solution. In this preparation phase, all parties should be involved and start a collaborative brainstorm session to establish the project foundation. The iterative design phase. In this phase, the cyclical model with 3 iterations of design, prototype, and review is quite similar to other instructional design models such as ADDIE, which involves the steps of design, development, and evaluation. All parties' ideas and assumptions are discussed, prototyped, and evaluated early on, approaching a usable product. The iterative development phase. In this phase, led by instructional design, all parties work collaboratively to go through the development, implementation, and evaluation together. The 4 steps of this phase start with a design proof, which derive from the first iteration development, move to alpha, a complete version of the instructional application, then evolve into beta, a version after feedback in the alpha step, and finalize into gold, a version after feedback in the beta step. Instructional designers and others will continually analyze and evaluate throughout the process. Rapid prototyping model. This is the last model we will examine. The idea of rapid prototyping as it applies to instructional design is to develop learning experiences in a continual design evaluation cycle that continues throughout the life of the project. This cycle, known as the spiral cycle or layered approach, is considered to be iterative. The overlapping boxes in the figure on the right of your screen are meant to represent the fact that the various processes do not occur in a linear fashion. In other words, the analysis of needs and content depends in part upon the knowledge that is gained by actually building and using a prototype instructional system. This model is a conventional 3-step process of creating an effective prototype. Step 1, creating the prototype. This is the stage where you create the model based on the learning needs of your audience, the instructional strategy decided beforehand, and the technical scope of the project. Step 2, review. This is the stage where your clients and/or the users step in to have the first peek. They review the prototype for functionality and usability. This stage comes quite early in the developmental process. Refining. This is your chance to make slight tweaks or revamp the prototype to match the feedback and recommendations of the users.